risk management and crisis prevention skills, a shield of safety in a turbulent world. The world no longer has room for complacency. We are living in a world of constant turbulence, where a minor incident in one corner of the globe can trigger shockwaves across continents. A business can collapse after a single social media post. A person's life can be turned upside down by one wrong decision. In such a context, risk management and crisis prevention skills are no longer a privilege reserved for top executives or corporate leaders. They are survival skills for every individual, organization, business, and even nation. Mastering these skills not only helps us avoid unnecessary losses, but also enhances our capacity to recover and turn threats into opportunities. So how can we proactively face and overcome hidden risks? Let's dive into the essential skills that form the foundation of effective risk management. Living without risk awareness is a silent disrespect to yourself. In life, some failures don't come from a lack of talent or bad luck. They stem from one harsh truth: you ignored the possibility of risk. Take a hard look at yourself. Do you have a financial backup plan in case you lose your income? Do you have any scenario prepared if your health fails? If a serious crisis hits your relationship or your job, will you have the ability to respond, or will you freeze? People often say, "I didn't expect this to happen." But life doesn't wait for you to expect. Life respects those who prepare, not those who hope. True self-respect isn't in what you wear or how confidently you speak. It lies in how seriously you take your own future. Those who don't plan, don't protect, and don't prevent aren't living freely. They're simply being negligent. And that negligence always comes with a price. You don't have to be rich to manage risk. You just have to value your own life enough to not leave it to chance. If you lose your job tomorrow, can your family stay afloat? If a loved one falls seriously ill, can you afford treatment? If not, are you living bravely or just carelessly? The person with true dignity never allows themselves to be caught off guard. They don't rely on luck. They build quiet shields around the people they love, just in case the storm comes. Not because they're fearful, but because they're responsible. So, if you truly want to protect yourself and your loved ones from being crushed by things you could have prevented, start now. And if this message spoke to you in any way, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell. Not just to support us, but to commit to a lifestyle that values preparation, resilience, and real self-respect. Sometimes, risk doesn't come to destroy you. It comes to remind you not to live too innocently. There are days when everything feels smooth, life moves along predictably, your job feels secure, your health seems fine, your family appears at peace. And in that comfort, it's tempting to believe that nothing bad will happen, that the worst is behind you, or perhaps will never come. But life has its own rhythm. It doesn't send invitations before it arrives with hardship. One moment you're smiling at a family dinner, and the next you're sitting in a hospital corridor holding back tears. One week you're full of plans and progress, and the next you're wondering how everything unraveled so fast. It's not because life is cruel, it's because life is uncertain by nature. And that uncertainty, rather than something to fear, is something we must humbly respect. Many people mistake the absence of difficulty for stability. They think that because today is calm, tomorrow will be too. But that is an illusion, a comforting one, but a dangerous one. True peace doesn't come from ignoring risk. It comes from preparing for it. Let's be honest. How many of us truly have a plan if we suddenly lose our job? What happens if someone we love falls seriously ill? What if a trusted relationship breaks down overnight? Would we have the financial, emotional, and psychological resilience to weather the storm? Or would we collapse, not from the event itself, but from the sheer shock of being unprepared? You see, the damage of a crisis often isn't in the crisis itself. It's in our disbelief that it could happen to us. There's a subtle arrogance we all carry. That won't happen to me. We think because we're decent people, because we work hard, because we're careful, that misfortune should skip over us. But life isn't a system of fairness. It doesn't strike only the reckless and reward only the responsible. Tragedy, illness, loss, they knock on all doors. Preparation, not virtue, is what protects us. And so sometimes, when risk appears, whether as a whisper or a roar, It's not there to ruin your life. It's there to awaken you. It's there to say, you've been sleepwalking through safety. It's time to wake up. To wake up to the reality that things can change. To wake up to the truth that love requires protection. To wake up to the understanding that hope is not a plan. People who live fully awake don't walk around with fear in their hearts. On the contrary, they're some of the most peaceful people you'll meet. Why? Because their peace is grounded. It doesn't rely on perfect conditions. It comes from knowing, I've done what I can to prepare. I may still fall, but I won't fall unprotected. They've set aside savings, even when money was tight. They've had difficult conversations with loved ones about what if. They've taken the time to understand their insurance, their legal documents, their support systems. They've built skills not just for career growth, but for survival. They've cultivated emotional strength by facing discomfort rather than running from it. This kind of preparation is invisible on the surface. No one praises you for it. No one sees your quiet spreadsheets, your hidden emergency fund, your moments of mental rehearsal when you ask yourself, what would I do if everything changed tomorrow? But when crisis hits, and it always does in some form, those quiet choices will speak louder than anything else. And the beauty is, risk management isn't just about protecting your own well-being. It's one of the deepest acts of love you can offer others. Think of a father who builds a financial cushion not because he expects tragedy, but because he can't bear the thought of his family suffering in his absence. Think of a mother who takes the time to organize her health records and legal documents, not because she's paranoid, but because she wants her children to have clarity if the unthinkable happens. Think of a young adult who buys basic insurance, not because they expect to need it, but because they don't want their parents to be burdened in case of emergency. These are acts of love, quiet, responsible, mature love. And so if you've been moving through life telling yourself, I'll deal with it later, I invite you to pause and ask yourself, what if later doesn't give you time to plan? What if the people you love most are left scrambling, not because life was unfair, but because you didn't take the small steps you could have? It's not about expecting the worst. It's about honoring the best, your health, your time, your relationships, by protecting them with intention. You don't need to overhaul your life overnight. Start gently. Look at your monthly budget. Could you create a small emergency fund, even if it's modest? Check your insurance. Does it truly cover what matters to you? Write down your passwords, your key documents, your financial contacts. Can someone else find them if needed? Talk to your partner, your parents, your siblings. Have you shared your wishes in case of emergency? These actions may seem uncomfortable. You might feel like you're inviting trouble by thinking of it, but you're not inviting crisis. You're reducing its power over you. And here's what might surprise you. The more you prepare, the more peaceful you become. Why? Because you're no longer avoiding what scares you. You're facing it, accepting it, and making space for life's unpredictability. That makes you stronger, not more fearful, but more free. Freedom doesn't mean nothing can hurt you. It means you're not paralyzed by the idea that something might. And that is one of the most empowering ways to live. So yes, sometimes risk will still come. Preparation doesn't make you immune, but it does make you resilient, composed, and deeply respectful of the life you've been given. And when people around you see you're calm, they too begin to breathe easier. Your readiness becomes their safety. Your steadiness becomes their anchor. So live prepared, not because you're afraid of dying, but because you're committed to living well, no matter what tomorrow brings. Risk management is not just a skill. It's one of the deepest expressions of love. In a world that often moves too fast, where we rush to accomplish more, earn more, and chase a version of success that others applaud, it's easy to overlook the quiet acts that truly protect us. We plan careers, build routines, and create goals. But how often do we pause and ask, if something goes wrong, will the people I love still be safe? That question might sound heavy, but it is the essence of maturity and one of the most sincere forms of love. Risk management, though it may sound like a term reserved for executives or financial advisors, is not limited to corporate life or business strategy. In its purest form, it is a mindset of care, a language of responsibility, and a quiet but powerful shield we offer to the people we cherish most. Think of a mother who sets aside money every month, not because she fears something will happen, but because she wants her children to have food and shelter, even if things go wrong. Think of a father who buys life insurance, not because he's pessimistic, but because he wants to leave peace, not panic, behind. Think of a young person who, instead of spending every penny, begins to build an emergency fund, not because they're afraid, but because they respect their own future. These acts aren't glamorous. No one celebrates them on social media. No one gives you a medal for quietly choosing to be prepared. And yet, these choices may be the very things that protect your family when the world suddenly shifts. The truth is, no one is immune to risk. Life doesn't guarantee certainty. Jobs can disappear overnight. Illness can arrive without warning. Natural disasters, accidents, misunderstandings, losses, none of them ask permission before entering our lives. They just come. And when they do, what stands between devastation and survival is not how much we hoped things would go well, but how much we prepared for when they didn't. A person who prepares not just for their own safety, but for the safety of others, is someone who truly understands love. Love is not just feeling deeply, it's acting wisely. It's not just saying, I care about you, but asking, how can I protect you when I might not be able to stand next to you? We often associate love with comfort, with warmth, with shared happiness. But real love shows itself when life gets difficult, when plans fall apart, when someone has to take responsibility. And in those moments, the quiet decisions made long ago, saving instead of spending, researching instead of ignoring, planning instead of hoping, become acts of grace. Have you ever seen someone lose a loved one and still have the strength to take care of the practical aftermath? Because they had a will, a folder of documents, a system in place. That strength wasn't born overnight. It was cultivated through foresight, patience, and care. Have you ever witnessed a family crumble, not because of the loss itself, but because no one knew what to do next? No instructions, no resources, no preparation. The grief became chaos. That's the painful difference preparation can make. It may seem dramatic or too serious to talk about on a normal day, but a responsible life isn't built on ignoring hard topics. It's built on facing them gently, gradually, and with love. And here's the beautiful part. Managing risk isn't about being afraid. It's about being free. When you know that your loved ones will be okay even if something happens, you walk lighter. You love more openly. You sleep more peacefully. You create, travel, explore, not with recklessness, but with quiet strength, because you've handled the part of life that many avoid. So ask yourself, if I were to leave unexpectedly, would my partner know how to handle the finances? If I fell ill, would my parents or siblings know what I need? If I lose my job, do I have a cushion to stay afloat while I find the next step? If my children face a crisis while I'm gone, have I left tools to help them through? These aren't morbid questions. They are questions born from a desire to love well. Because loving someone doesn't mean shielding them from every hardship. It means giving them the tools to survive and stand strong when hardship comes. And if you've never thought about risk in this way before, not as fear, but as care, let this be your starting point. Start small. Set up a basic emergency fund. Make sure someone knows where your important documents are. Talk to your loved ones about what they might need if you weren't there. Build your skills, financial, emotional, and relational, to respond calmly when life changes. You don't need to be rich to prepare. You need to be committed. Because preparation isn't a luxury. It's a form of respect for yourself, for the people who rely on you, for the life you've been trusted to live. So the next time you wonder whether managing risk is worth the effort, remember this: it is one of the most human, most compassionate things you can do. It's a quiet way of saying to the people around you, I love you. I may not always be here, but even if I'm not, I've done everything I can to make sure you're okay. That is love in action. And it's the kind that endures. The greatest risk is not crisis. It's the illusion that everything will always be in your hands. One of the most dangerous ideas we hold, often without realizing it, is this: things are going well now, so they'll probably continue to go well. It's a comforting thought, reassuring, even flattering. We convince ourselves that because we've worked hard, built some stability, and done our part, life will remain under our control. But life does not operate on guarantees. It moves in patterns we cannot predict. And sometimes, the biggest surprises come not from random misfortune, but from our failure to acknowledge that change is inevitable. That illusion, the belief that everything will stay as it is not just naive, it's risky. And when you live under that illusion, you don't prepare. You don't ask, what if, because you think you'll always have time. You don't build backups because you think they won't be needed. And you don't talk about uncomfortable possibilities because they seem so far away, until they aren't. You see, most people don't collapse under crisis because the event itself was so terrible. They collapse because they were completely unprepared. Not financially, not emotionally, not spiritually. And in that unpreparedness, they feel betrayed, not by life, but by their own assumptions. A career can fall apart due to one economic shift. A loved one's illness can throw your world into chaos. An accident, a disagreement, a storm. You only need one moment for everything you built to begin to unravel. But if you've built only for the best case scenario, what happens when life chooses the worst? This is where the mindset of risk management becomes more than just a practical tool. It becomes a way of life, a way of saying, I know I can't predict everything, but I can live in a way that's ready for the unpredictable. That's not negativity. It's respect for the nature of reality. The people who respond calmly in times of crisis are not necessarily stronger than others. They are simply more prepared. They've faced the possibility of loss in their minds already. They've thought through plans B, C, and D, not because they want those outcomes, but because they've accepted that anything is possible. They've asked questions others avoid. What if my income stops tomorrow? What if my health takes a sudden turn? What if someone I depend on becomes unavailable? They've done the hard inner work of sitting with discomfort, and from that discomfort, they've built strength. Not the loud kind, but the quiet resilience that shows up when everyone else is panicking. By contrast, those who never consider these questions may appear more optimistic, but often it's just avoidance. And when crisis knocks on their door, they're forced to make decisions in panic, not from clarity. The cost of that panic is often enormous. Broken relationships, long-term debt, emotional breakdown, or lost time that could have been saved with even a little preparation. And the irony is, many of these people are otherwise responsible, kind, loving individuals. They are not lazy. They are not careless. But they were lulled into comfort by the illusion of stability. And that illusion cost them more than any single crisis ever could. True maturity begins when we realize that life is not obligated to go according to plan. It's when we stop blaming life for being unpredictable and start honoring it by preparing for its unpredictability. This doesn't mean walking around in constant fear. It means integrating simple, steady actions into your life that build your ability to adapt. Keeping some money saved, even a little. Having conversations about what your family would need in case of emergency. Maintaining not just physical health, but mental and emotional resilience. Learning how to pivot in your career when things shift. Staying informed about your insurance, legal rights, and financial options. These aren't extreme measures. They're habits of a person who loves wisely, who cares deeply enough to prepare, and who sees risk not as a threat, but as a teacher. And here's the deeper truth. When you prepare for the possibility of loss, you don't love less. You love more. You're more present, more grateful, more attentive. You don't take people for granted. You cherish what you have today because you know it might not last forever. That makes every interaction more meaningful, every quiet evening more sacred, every shared laugh more vibrant. So if you've been living with the comforting idea that things will always be okay, pause. Gently, compassionately, ask yourself, what part of your life have you assumed will always stay the same? What would it mean to protect that part more actively? And if things were to change tomorrow, how would you want to show up for yourself and the people you love? Because ultimately, the purpose of risk management is not to build walls. It's to build strength, to reduce unnecessary suffering, and to honor the people who depend on you. It's a quiet act of leadership, a mature form of love, and a beautiful expression of self-respect. And when you begin to live this way, not ruled by fear, but guided by care, you'll find that you feel more free, not less. Because you're no longer at the mercy of circumstances. You've become someone who can stand even when the ground shakes. Preparing for the worst is a gentle act of love for what you treasure most. No one wants to think about disaster. No one enjoys imagining failure, illness, or loss. But those who live with depth and clarity know a truly responsible life includes preparing for what we hope will never come. Some people believe that thinking about risk is a sign of pessimism, but in reality, it's a sign of maturity. It's a sign that you care deeply, not just about your own future, but about the well-being of those who depend on you. Because when crisis arrives, and eventually, it always does, it doesn't just test your finances or your plans. It tests your character, your stability, and your ability to stay present for those who need you. And if you haven't prepared at all, the crisis won't just hurt you. It will shake the people who love you most. Think about it. The man who puts aside a portion of his income for emergencies isn't paranoid. He's committed. He's quietly telling his wife and children, "If something happens, I'll still protect you." The woman who learns about financial planning and builds a fallback option isn't anxious. She's intentional. She's telling her future self, "Even if the road changes, I'll find another way." The young adult who starts investing in health, skills, and multiple income sources isn't afraid. They're awake. They understand that freedom is not the absence of hardship. Freedom is the ability to stay standing, even when life doesn't go as planned. What breaks people in times of crisis isn't always the crisis itself. It's the emotional chaos that comes when they realize they never imagined this could happen. The panic of realizing they have no plan. The shame of needing help because they didn't prepare. The helplessness of watching others suffer because they failed to take basic precautions. And that's the most painful truth of all. We often don't suffer alone. We carry others with us into the storm. But you don't have to live that way. You can be the person who quietly builds the strength to hold others steady. You can be the one who prepares, not out of fear, but out of love. You can be the one who says, "Even if things fall apart, I'll have something left to rebuild with." Start small. Save a little, even if it's not much. Write down your emergency contacts. Have gentle, honest conversations with your loved ones about what if. Learn about the basics of insurance, savings, and self-care. Put together a folder, physical or digital, that someone could use if you're not there to explain everything. These aren't grand gestures, but they're sacred ones. Because the people who will need you the most in your absence will not care about how much you earned or what awards you won. They will care that you thought of them, that you made their survival easier, that you loved them in a way that reached beyond your presence. This is what real care looks like. This is what risk management means. Not spreadsheets and technical charts, but a mindset of gentleness, foresight, and dignity. So if you've made it this far, if these words have touched something within you, perhaps it's time. Time to live not just with ambition, but with awareness. Time to protect not just your goals, but your people. Time to become the version of you who stays calm when others panic, not because you're lucky, but because you're ready. And if this message resonated with you, if it reminded you to live more consciously, to love more intentionally, and to prepare more deeply, then I invite you to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell. Not just to support this content, but to commit to a life that doesn't wait for disaster to grow stronger. Let's grow stronger together, quietly, steadily, wisely. Thank you for listening with both your mind and your heart.